Hi everybody. This video will take us through digitizing your dream island, and I'm going to start by creating a new folder on my desktop. We do this for each lab, and I'm going to label this one with lab 01. Now I do 01, 10, because if I just did 1, then when I sort them in a folder and I get to 10, the ones are going to be after the 10. So if I do 01, they'll be in a nice order. And then in this folder, I'm going to set it up the way we do with all of our folders. First, I have 1 originals, 2 working, and 3 final. Now, this is a bit of overkill for this lab because this is a pretty simple lab, but in the future, this is going to be very valuable because what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our original data, in other words, data we pull from the web or someone gives us, into originals, because that's like not stuff we trust yet. We're not sure about it. We're going to do our work in working. That's where we're going to be digitizing and doing analysis and other things. And then as we get our final maps, final reports in place, we'll put them in final. Okay, so now I've got my folder structure set up, and I'll mention this again at the end, but you also want to make sure that you take this with you. Since you'll be working in a virtual lab, when you sign up for the virtual lab, this will disappear, and this is where we want to put everything for this lab so that you can take it with you, bring it back in another virtual lab, or if you're running on a home machine, you can zip it, put it on Google Drive for backup in case anything happens. Okay, so now I'm going to launch Arc Pro. And I do that off the taskbar, but you can also do it from the search bar. Once you have it installed, here's ArcGIS Pro. I'm going to move it so it fits inside my recording window so you can see it. There we go. Okay. When you launch ArcGIS Pro, this is where you end up. It's a new product. The user interface is very complicated and the software is pretty slow. So I'm a little frustrated with it. You will hear that repeatedly with me. But it also has an incredible number of features and capabilities. So let's go ahead and get started. And there's one thing you want to be careful with is normally this is the view that you get. Unless you double click on a project file, it'll take you to this kind of blank view. And you probably want to go to map. That's sort of home base. Okay, and that's where I'm going to go. And now it's looking for a project. And this is where you want to be really careful because notice where it's going to put your projects by default is into your users folder, Jim Graham, documents, ArcGIS projects. It's going to bury them and you'd have to go find them. Much harder to find than the desktop. So first thing I want to do is make sure that I go to my computer's desktop. We wait. Have to learn to be patient with ArcGIS Pro. And then we find lab 1, and this is going to be working, so I'm going to go into working. Okay, now if you hit OK, that's going to select that folder for where it's going to put things, and then I'm just going to rename this lab 01. Okay, now this is creating a couple of folders and projects, files that go with our project, and then it'll open up. And by the way, if you're used to ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro functions very similar to ArcMap, except the user interface is really different. And as I said, it's very complicated and in my opinion, hard to find things. Now, if you're used to using ArcCatalog, you may find that it's missing. Where is ArcCatalog? And in fact, I have a bunch of things open because I was messing with a bunch of things earlier to develop this lab, and I'm going to close some things. If you go up here and you start going through the tabs, you will see there's a bunch of things in these tabs, including catalog pane. Ta-da! This is our catalog. If you're used to the ArcMap catalog, there it is. And here's our folders, and there's lab 1. Now, if we didn't save our project in lab 1, that wouldn't appear. Okay, we'd have to go and add a folder connection to get to lab 1. And that's okay too, except that's also a warning that your project file is not in the folder that's on your desktop. And with some labs, you're really going to want to make sure you do that. This one, not as important because it's not as complicated. Okay, so we've also got our map. It's got the United States on it, but if we zoom out, we can see it's really the whole world. It's in a horrible Google Maps projection. We'll talk more about that later in future weeks. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start creating our inland paradise. And I realized that, oh, let's see, let's move around a bit first. So, sorry, I just started by moving around. Okay, if you go to map and you hit explore, that's how you can move around. And you can use your mouse, clicking down and dragging. You can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. Okay, and so it does what you would expect it to do. Now, if you don't like this background, you can go to the Map tab, Base Map, and there's some other ones available. I think the most commonly one used are either going to be imagery with labels or topographic. This was topographic. Imagery with labels is going to be satellite. And oh look, there's Humboldt County with a few labels to help us see where we are. Okay, and I'm going to keep these videos to about 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop now and start another one.